It's 2023 and I've been talking to this girl for about 3 months now, and she's been showing me a lot of attention, and I genuinely, really start to like this girl. And at that time, I've been on NoFap for about 9 months, so I'm seeing this girl with such pure attentions, with such like a loving heart. Then it's late one night, and I guess she's in a freaky mood, and she starts texting me, photos of herself, and she's trying to convince me to fap to her. And at that time, I'm almost like disgusted at the fact that she did that, but I'm so scared of losing this girl, and I'm viewing this girl highly than me because of my own insecurities, to where, I don't fap to her, but I almost like kind of give in, kind of don't. And eventually the next day she apologizes for trying to convince me to do it. But I was just not brave enough to, say no, because I was insecure of myself. So I wanted you to watch this video, and it'll help you understand if you're ready for a relationship or if you're not ready for a relationship. So number one is you are not ready if you're insecure, because if you are insecure, you are just not ready. I think insecurity is going to be our number one, because insecurity, it really will affect you in a relationship. If you don't view yourself highly, if you view yourself super low and you don't think you have a lot of value, you're going to settle for a lot less. You're going to take more, and you're not going to be firm and, okay, this is who I am, this is my value. And you're going to allow people to, walk all over you and treat you badly. So number one is definitely insecurity. Then at that time, I kind of had a life purpose, right? At that time, my purpose was going to the gym. All I cared about was the gym. It was all I cared about. I ate super clean. I lifted every single day. It was my one purpose, was going to the gym, going to the gym, going to the gym. So I had a purpose. However, when you get into that relationship, it kind of, unaligns you from your purpose. When you have a purpose, right now, my purpose is so clear. I want to become one of the biggest influencers of helping young men. I want to build apps to millions of users that help people all around. And I want this vision. I want it so badly. So in this area of my life, me getting into a relationship would make no sense. All it would do is would distract me and take up brain points, because when you're in a relationship, it genuinely takes up so much energy from you, because you're thinking about that person, you're hanging out with that person is always on your mind. So whether you like it or not, it does take up brain points from you. It does take up the brain power you have. So that's why I think if you're so locked in on a purpose and you have a clear purpose, then you're not ready. So for number two, we're going to put purpose. Because if you have a goal, if you have a purpose that you're aiming towards every single day and you want to achieve so badly, you shouldn't waste your time getting in a relationship. You should be so focused on that purpose. And what happened is, when I started talking to this girl, is she was like the only thing on my mind. It's all I thought about. We were on calls all the time. We were hanging out here and there. She was always on my mind. I was always like, oh, does she like me? Does she not like me? Because I was insecure too. So I was like, oh, I don't want to lose her. And she was always on my mind. And what happened is, it kind of strayed me away from my purpose. I started kind of getting away from my purpose. Maybe I started, playing video games a little more. And I started giving into eating a little worse food. I started getting a little comfortable, right? So if you have a purpose and you have a goal, you should not get into a relationship. However, if you're also super lost in life, you should also not get into a relationship, because if you're lost in life and you don't have a direct vision of where you're going in life, you shouldn't get in a relationship, because all a relationship's going to do is it's going to kind of like make you even more off center. It's going to make you kind of feel comfortable because you have love, but you're not accomplishing anything, so you're going to feel lost, and it's going to get you in this like rut where you genuinely achieve nothing. So if you're lost in life and you're playing video games and you're smoking, you're drinking, you're going out late and you're just kind of doom scrolling all day, you don't really know what you're doing with your life, you should not get into a relationship. You shouldn't, man. All it's going to do is hurt you more. It's going to cause you more problems than you think it's going to fix. So if you're insecure, if you're, you have a purpose, or if you don't have a purpose, you shouldn't get into a relationship. Then if you're lustful, you really need to figure out, what are my intentions, right? When you're hanging out with a girl, when you're talking to a girl, what are my intentions with this girl? The one thing that girl really liked about me was because my intentions were pure. She was like, oh, you're one of the only guys that isn't using me for lust, because at that time I genuinely was just so pure of mind. I was 9-10 months on NoFap, and I had this childlike joy to me, and that's why I think it felt so uncomfortable when I started, things started to get super lustful, because I genuinely just felt pure and like an open heart towards her. So you need to really understand, what are your intentions, because if you're struggling with lust, if you're watching porn and you're fapping, you won't be able to build a true loving relationship, because a man full of lust will never experience true love. So if you're full of lust, You are not ready if you're lustful. If you're a lustful guy, if you're a lustful man, you are not ready for a relationship. So you first need to figure out, okay, I need to become a man who's not lustful. I need to become a man who's full of love. And it's going to take time, bro. It's going to take so much time, but it's worth it. Because if you're any of these things, if you're insecure, if you don't have a purpose, if you're lustful, you're getting in a relationship is the worst thing you can do. So focus on firstly fixing those things. Now, how do you know if you're ready to get into a relationship? Well, the first thing is, so right now, in this point in my life, I'm super secure in myself, right? 2023, 3 years ago, I really didn't know who I was. I didn't really have like a strong identity of who I was. And I was really kind of lost in life. I took things personally. I wasn't confident in myself. So you need to be secure in yourself. Now I'm super secure in myself. Now, how did I do that? Because I spent so much time in self-improvement, I set goals for myself and I achieved these goals. Like I have a goal board right here. This is kind of funny. This is from 2025 actually, and here are my 2025 goals, right? At this time, I was pretty lost in life. I started like reselling fake glasses. I was kind of didn't really have like a purpose. I just kind of wanted to make money. And my goals are way different now, but these are my goals. It was 10K month, new car, social media as a revenue source, and grow with God. And I've achieved all these goals. And when you set goals for yourself and you achieve goals, it sort of makes you more confident. You start to feel more secure in yourself. Okay, this is who I am. And now my goals now are, I see them up there. It's grow with God. It's keep changing lives. It's, build successful apps, grow on social media. It's travel 5 countries, experience the world. They're much less materialistic. So you need to set goals for yourself and achieve these goals. And what's going to happen is at first when you set goals for yourself, they're going to be like materialistic things, right? Like, oh, I want to make more money. Then you're going to achieve the money and you're going to be like, okay, wait, the money isn't what makes you happy. What makes you happy? It's just being. It's just awareness. It's purpose. And you start to mature more and you start to feel more secure in yourself. So if you're at a point where you're really secure in yourself, maybe you also have a purpose, right? Secure, you have a purpose. Can't really see what I'm writing here. It's kind of hard to write. But yeah, you're secure. I don't know if you guys can read that either. But yeah, you're secure. You have a purpose, right? What's a purpose? It's where you have a mission that you're just aiming towards day after day, right? That's the problem. You're not. It's like that's where it gets a little weird, right? If you have a purpose, maybe you shouldn't get in a relationship. But if you already have a true purpose, it's more so it's kind of like the level of where you're at with your purpose, right? I believe there's layers to your purpose. At first, my first purpose was going to the gym. Now I don't really care about the gym. I still do it because it's a habit, but I'm really focused on helping young men. Your purpose will change, but I think if you're just starting out your purpose, then you're not ready for a relationship because you're probably still that insecure kid, But if you're been chasing a purpose for a few years now, you've really leveled up your life and you are really secure in yourself and you have a purpose, then you're ready for a relationship. So you need to make sure, you already have your purpose, you're already secure in yourself. Because if you don't have those things, you're not ready for a relationship. Because what happened to me, man, is that 2023 is I was so scared of losing this girl, right? I felt like a test. My whole life felt like a test. Every time I hung out with her, it felt like it was almost some sort of test. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what I need to do? And I wasn't in this present state because I was so worried about every little action I was doing is this the right move? Is this the right thing? My whole life was a test. But when you're secure in yourself and you're super just present and you're aware and you're kind of matured a bit to where, you can just be present in the present moment and you just are, it's more spiritual what I'm talking about now. It's just where you're present, you're just aware and you're not overthinking. You just are in that present moment. Then you're much more ready for a relationship. And you need to make sure you solve your own problems too, man. You need to make sure you don't have attachment issues. You're not super attached to someone. You need to really make sure attention is good. Are you using this girl because you're trying to fill a void in your heart? Or do you genuinely love this girl and truly have some sort of feelings for her, man? Because I'm telling you, the worst thing you can do as a young man and at this age is get into a relationship when you're not ready. Because all it's going to do is separate you. So many people in high school, I think I'm probably like the only, out of everyone, I went to elementary and middle school with, me and a few others are living very different lives. And because of that, is because we didn't get into the whole, relationship, partying, slop, and our minds were much more focused on purpose. And because of that, I'm living a life I love, right? I get to this is my job, I get to do this, I get to build businesses, I get to do whatever I want during the day. I have fun, I love it, I love each day. I wake up, I meditate, I pray to God, I grow with God, and I just love it, man. And because of that was because I didn't chase relationships to fill the void in my heart. I chased purpose. I understood, okay, if I chase a relationship, if I get in a relationship with a girl, what value is it going to bring me right now except just value in the moment? Okay, I realized, okay, in this I'm a high schooler, man. In this season of life, I need to be doing whatever it takes to set myself up so when I graduate high school, I can travel the world, I can live freely, I can live my dream life. You have to really adopt that mindset, man. And you need to make sure the relationship is growing you. You need to make sure the relationship isn't holding you back. You need to make sure instead it's growing you to be a better person. So, if you're not ready for a relationship, if you're super insecure in yourself, if you overthink, if you have attachment issues, or if I guess I'll just put no purpose. If you have no purpose, you're drifting through life, you don't really have like a direct vision of, okay, this is who I am. You haven't really achieved much. You don't have much, you haven't achieved much. You need to start achieving things before you're ready for a relationship, because you learn a lot in the journey. Like when you're so focused on the gym, you learn a lot. When you're so focused on business, you learn a lot, and you start to be super confident and set in who you are. So you're not going to be able to have, like, a girl's not going to, make or break your identity. Then if you're lustful, you should never get into a relationship, because all it's going to do is hurt both parties, man. To make sure you're free of lust and you're ready for a relationship, if you're secure in yourself, you know who you are, you're confident in who you are, you have a purpose that you're aiming towards every single day, that okay, this is my life purpose, and your mind is like clear because you practice meditation to where you're not thinking about this girl all day and you're thinking about your purpose. Then when you're hanging out with the girl, then you're thinking about the girl, but when you're working, you're thinking about work. So you need to really practice meditation, mindfulness, being where your feet are. Because if you're like, what happened to me that sophomore year, man, is I was just thinking about this girl everywhere. I would be at school thinking about this girl. Like, she was always on my mind in the shower. You're just thinking about the girl. You're not where your feet are, which I guess it's not as much as an issue of getting in a relationship. It's more of an issue of you not being where your feet are. So practice awareness drills. Every morning I sit outside for an hour and two, and I just read, and I do breath work, and I'm in the present moment. I'm calm, relaxed, and it helps me a lot. So, be secure, have a purpose, and, make sure you're not chasing, lust because you want love. Make sure that girl, you genuinely care about her and you genuinely love her, and never rush a relationship, man. So I hope this video helped you. If you did, subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100K, and I love you guys.